Hello everyone, welcome to my next video. This one is going to count down my top 10 of Robin Gibb songs. My favorite songs of this amazing artist, most underrated artist perhaps of the 20th century, Robin Gibb. I'd like to start with a Bee Gees song that he wrote for the Bee Gees and that he sung most of the lead, and that song is Massachusetts. This song is the Bee Gees' first #1 hit. And what's interesting is, thank God it went to #1, or we would have lost Robin Gibb before the end of that year, 1968. Because in that year, Robin suffered a train crash where 50 people died. And the crash, the metal, the steel, came so close to Robin that had he not travelled first class, he would have actually died. So it was all thanks to this song going #1 that he could afford his first class ticket.
Try to hitch a ride to San Francisco. Gotta do the things I wanna do. And the lights all went out in Massachusetts. They brought me back to see my way with you.
Also, he rescued the life of his then wife Molly. He carried her off the train wreck, and he also helped other people get off that train wreck. Unfortunately, it didn't help their relationship too much. They divorced about 12 to 13 years later in very, very sad circumstances, involving lawyers and investigators and all sorts of things. At the age of 33, he did meet the love of his life, Dwina Murphy, who became Dwina Gibb, and her great knowledge of esoteric traditions in witchcraft and her vegetarian diet proved to be a perfect match for Robin's eccentricities. The next song is #9, Return to Austria. This is a demo that wasn't released until 2015, but of course, very, very bootlegged before that between, hardcore Bee Gees fans like myself. I love this record, by the way. Go out and get this if you still can. This was released 2015. This is all of his collected works from 1968 until 1970. This happens to be from an album that he didn't release. It was unreleased, called Sing Slowly Sisters. His first album, Robin's Reign, was a real big smash hit, actually, and had 2 top 40 hits and a #1 called Saved by the Bell. But his next album wasn't going to be released. Perhaps the record company didn't feel like it was really up to standard of that time. It was very Robin of 1970. It was really all about Robin, and it was a similar history repeating itself in 1973 when the Bee Gees tried to release an album that was not approved as well. So they went back to the drawing board and did something more up to date. So this song, Return to Austria, is arguably one of the most emotional songs I certainly have ever heard. And this demo proves it. I think he almost cries in this demo. Sounds like he's singing in a church. There's the mellotron that he's playing. Sounds like a 16th century cathedral for all we know. And it has this regal quality that's fit for a king and queen at the palace. Very much copied by Elton John.
She soon grew tired and she travels Stockholm, New York, return to Austria. I still love you more than you'll ever
Elton John in 1969 sung Saved by the Bell on one of those anonymous solid gold hits releases of the time. That's when compilations would come out with anonymous artists singing the hits of the day, or the hit parade. And yeah, so Elton John owes a lot to this very day to Robin Gibb. This song is about a long-distance relationship, but she dumps him by letter. You didn't have texts or Facebook in those days, so she dumped him pretty much by letter, and he's singing this song to try and woo her back. Very emotional, downtrodden guy. Misses his travels to Austria. Okay. Next song. This song is called Cathy's Gone. This is probably my favourite album of the 1980s. When I first heard it back in 1993, I thought, where has this album been all my life? This was just what I was looking for. This is really dark, like The Cure. Depicted, of film and art and culture of the olden Hollywood days. All of a sudden, when Thriller came out, and even just before it actually, artists really wanted to look around what is actually going on in the world of music and get influenced by it, because music was starting to really skyrocket in sales, and also it was just a melting pot of really great writing in many different styles, and there was no reason why someone like Robin Gibb couldn't do something like what Robert Smith of The Cure would do. Or vice versa, or sound like the Cars maybe, or someone like that. There was no reason why another old 60s artist, even like Donovan, didn't sound like the Thompson Twins. And it was real good cross-pollination. ABBA kind of left behind since they split up the previous year in 1982. But it's definitely a lot more cutting edge than ABBA ever was. I love this record. After Thriller, this would be my next favourite album of the amazing decade, the 1980s. Robin can just be Robin here, and yet really fit in to what was going on in the music arena. As you can see, happily watching on by, watching the romance in the back seat of the theatre. That's really, really fitting for the 1980s, where everyone, Bruce Springsteen and Madonna, everyone was really looking around what's going on in the music arena and incorporating it into their own art. I think that was a very special period like that, which we've rarely seen. Perhaps it was there in the 60s. Records were skyrocketing in sales, and so bands wanted to get in on the action and really have a look at what's going on. So Cure were very commercial, U2 were very commercial, whereas in previous times would do fairly underground kind of songs, and they started at the beginning of that decade. So this comes into that time frame when music was quite commercial. Hundreds of millions, tens of millions of records was now a possibility, whereas before never ever could you sell 50 million albums. So everyone was trying to follow the formula of Thriller, but not in a newly bought mansion where Joan of Arc was executed 800 years earlier. So you can feel that. And a lot of his workers have claimed to have seen ghosts, and I certainly feel that this is a very haunted tune. Have a listen for a few seconds. Next song is called Walls Have Eyes. This was released in 1985 from his Walls Have Eyes LP. That's what it looks like. The double cover there. And very haunting, very new wave, electronic bass. And yeah, I love the haunting melody mixed with this haunting operatic voice, full of echo. And some really good overdubbing too on this, vocal overdubbing on this track. Have a listen.